Hello, and welcome back to the New York Virtual Photo Salon. I'm Lavon Hall, your host for this event. Thank you for tuning in last time. I hope everyone enjoyed that intriguing night exploration. If you haven't seen it yet, and the rest of our talented speakers, click on the links in the description. Also, we'd appreciate you leaving us comments, subscribing, and liking this channel. For tonight's guest, very excited to bring you this fascinating work by Natali Bravo-Barbee. Now get comfy, enjoy the show, and thanks for watching.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Natali Bravo-Barbee, and today I'm going to take you on a visual journey of the development of my photo-based work using the cyanotype process. For those unfamiliar with cyanotypes, it is a contact printing process known for its beautiful Prussian blue color, and it uses UV light to expose, water to develop. It was invented in 1843. The first photo book ever made was made by Anna Atkins, and she used this process to hand make her botanical books. Its simplicity is what originally attracted me to cyanotypes. So let's start from the beginning. I was born in Córdoba, Argentina. My family immigrated to the US when I was a child, and we landed in Queens. I love Queens. I currently live and work here. I began photographing at the age of 15 and went on to achieve my undergraduate degree and my master's in interdisciplinary practice. In 2015, while working on my MFA at City College, I took an alternative process photo class that changed the course of my work. That's where I learned about cyanotypes, and this is when I went back to making cameraless images again. Immediately, it became an obsession. I began using objects from my history to make negatives, or the object itself as negatives to make photograms. I'm extremely interested in using images as objects and began playing with this idea more with every project. My cyanotype green card was the beginning of using the large digital negative to make contact prints. Of course, linearization was something that I also had to learn to make digital negatives work with this process. Then I used the dress I wore the day we immigrated as a negative for a larger photogram. The exposure was well over an hour long using a large UV exposure unit with a vacuum. I learned that the vacuum in the exposure unit acts as a form of focus. The vacuum allowed for crisp, sharp focus and allowed the tiniest of details to translate into a print. From that print of my immigration dress, many more were inspired and continue to be present day. I consider myself an extremely nostalgic person, one who adds sentimental value to objects. I struggle with letting things go, but always freak out when I see an episode of Hoarders and remind myself that there has to be a healthy balance between hoarding and saving memories. But I find that holding on to objects that I have assigned particular memories to can be helpful in my work. For example, the gloves and rosary print titled Baptism were two objects given to me by my grandfather for my first communion. He never did get to see me receive my first communion because he passed away a few months earlier. So for me, these items are the last gifts given to me by my beloved grandpa. Naturally, those gloves also went on to inspire many of my future prints. One day, as I was writing my master thesis, I asked myself, where do my ideas come from? And the answer was, well, my childhood. The little Natali that lives in my subconscious makes a lot of my aesthetic choices, and it's all based on memory and gender. One of my early lace cyanotypes were collars. I had to ask, why collars? As I dug deeper into my archive of objects with lingering memories, I found my favorite childhood outfit. A little red ruffled skirt with a satin top, and the top had a collar identical to the ones I had selected to make prints from. This is when I began building photo-based installations using cyanotypes. Circa 1986 is an installation I made using a mannequin who is wearing my favorite childhood outfit and window shopping for collars. Her shadow is projected against the wall on top of a cyanotype collar print, and it's positioned to appear as if it is also wearing a collar. Her body language is one of questioning. What is the greater meaning of this collar? Over 20 different collar prints were born from this single revelation. In my work, I like to tackle the idea of gender and what it means to me, and also how those ideas were imposed onto me. After making autobiographical work for many years, I decided to make work that sheds light on women's issues, such as health, safety, and abuse. The framed print uterine lining was inspired by a loved one's health problems with her reproductive system and how our healthcare system has failed her and many other women. I used a cyanotype photogram of a G-string, cut it out, and hung it on a tiny wire hanger with a label that says uterine. The shape of the underwear loosely resembles the shape of a woman's reproductive system, the uterus and the ovaries. The hanger symbolizes the long history of women performing abortions on themselves because they didn't have access to legal abortions. This leads me to my current project, which has been the biggest one of my career so far. The Flores de Femicidio, which translates to femicide florals. I started this project in January 2019. It is an installation and a memorial. I decided to make a cyanotype paper flower sculpture for each victim of femicide in my place of birth, Argentina, for the entire year of 2019. Let me define femicide as being the murder of a woman by a man, a gender-based crime. This project has been a labor of love. Researching the women and their stories has been gut-wrenching, though. Sometimes during the research, I would read a story that was so heinous that I would have to walk away for a little while to compose myself. I would take breaks and do something like collect flowers, dry, press them, make cyanotypes using those flowers, and then archive them. Each of these flowers is individually unique as the person it represents. One flower takes approximately 10 hours to make. From drawing the petals, cutting them out, coating the paper with cyanotype chemistry, exposing them, developing, shaping and assembling. In total, there were 327 victims in 2019 in Argentina. That's roughly one woman being murdered by a man every 27 hours. That's a lot. South America has the highest rate of femicides in the world. 81% of femicides happen in 6 Latin American countries. 6! Brazil and Mexico lead in numbers. They're followed by Argentina, Peru, El Salvador, and Bolivia. So why flowers? We usually offer flowers to the dead. It is the earliest and oldest form of human ritual and dates back to 62,000 BC. Archaeologists found pollen in Shanidar Cave in northern Iraq, showing signs of Neanderthals placing flowers with their dead. The soil that surrounds the graves was shown to have high traces of pollen from varying flowers. During earlier funerals with decomposing and decaying bodies, fragrant flowers were used to mask the smell. One example of this is President Andrew Jackson's funeral. By the time his funeral was held, the odor emanating from his casket was so strong that the entire casket was covered in extremely fragrant flowers to allow the attendees of his funeral to attend the hour-long ceremony. Otherwise, it would have been unpleasant and unbearable. Present day, flowers are a huge part of funerals. We use them to honor the memory of a departed being. We also offer them as condolences to the family of the deceased. We like to use flowers metaphorically too, as a symbol for life and death. Now, let me talk a little bit about what happened during COVID. During the pandemic, I was one of 6 Enclave Artist Fellows selected to make an art installation for an outdoor garden. And I decided to make a satellite project based on the femicide florals that was installed in the Queen's Botanical Garden for several months, which was a completely crazy idea to me, to make a paper-based installation to exist outdoors in the rain and in the sun. Well, needless to say, I learned a lot. I made the same installation twice, and you can see the contrast of what sun exposure does to a cyanotype after months of being exposed. Fascinating, huh? Speaking of the Enclave Artist Alliance and the Queen's Botanical Garden, 1 month of my femicide florals is up on display there until April 6th. So you can go see some of my cyanotype paper flowers in person. And now I'm back to working on the Flores de Femicidio project. I received a grant from the Queen's Council on the Arts for this project, which was extremely helpful. Their support has been invaluable. I've been working on this project for 2 years and 2 months, and I'm excited to finally show it in its entirety for the first time this coming fall at the York College Fine Arts Gallery. Please follow me on social media for updates on that show and to see more of my work. I'd like to thank you for taking this visual journey with me. And I'd like to thank Levon Hall and the New York Photo Salon for giving me a platform to share my work. Have a great day, night, week, and month. Be safe, and let's keep in touch. And feel free to reach out with any questions or feedback. I love hearing feedback about my work. Okay, bye for now.
Wow, Natali, thank you for sharing your elaborate artwork and creating beautiful pieces to represent women's issues. Not an easy task. I hope you all enjoy this creative journey and follow Natali for more updates. Please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave comments, and subscribe to this channel. Thank you all for tuning in, and the New York Virtual Photo Salon Committee. I'm Levon Hall, and we'll see you next time with some more engaging speakers.